But I did grow up in Wisconsin, so I'm used to wearing big jackets and trying to stay warm and running building to building and all that good stuff. Welcome to 22 Minutes with Ben Skinazi. With nearly 20 years of experience in digital advertising, Ben has built deep expertise across multiple facets of the industry with a strong focus on programmatic advertising over the past 12 years. As co-founder of Sharethrough, he has been recognized as one of C2 Montreal's top 20 emerging young entrepreneurs and is a frequent speaker at industry conferences and universities. In 2022, he played a pioneering role in the launch and adoption of green tech media projects and products, driving sustainability initiatives within the ad industry. Welcome to the show, Ben.
Thank you for having me. Nice to meet you. Or nice to see you again, in fact.
Yes, absolutely. I've been looking forward to this conversation, and there's just so much we could dive into around digital sustainability. What's kind of the biggest fundamental shift that's happened and that has happened over time as advertising has moved more and more online? And how does it actually work differently than some of the other legacy media formats, TV, print, et cetera?
Well, that's a good question. First and foremost, advertising, it's all about connecting brands to consumers. That has never changed, and I don't think that will ever change. But digital advertising is different than other traditional media like print or radio or TV, even if TV is shifting more and more towards digital with connected TVs. But digital advertising, it's powered by data, automation, and now for the past maybe 12, 13 years by real-time bidding, which is the ability to buy and sell online advertising spaces in real time. That also means that digital advertising allows to get like a live feedback, I would say, about the campaign performance. So measurement is something that is at the core of digital advertising. Every impressions, clicks, conversions are tracked, and therefore providing advertisers with live feedback on the performance of their campaigns, which means also the ability to optimize the campaign delivery in real time.
So how much, this is probably a hard question to answer, but advertising comes in so many different forms and functions and whatnot. Like, how much of the overall ad industry today would you kind of put in that, broad digital kind of group, if you will?
So always hard to get like the full accurate number, but the estimation is around 70% of all advertising globally is digital.
So it's most and more every day, I guess, right?
Exactly. And the internet population is growing every day as well. And we are more and more connected with multiple devices, et cetera, et cetera. So that percentage is constantly growing. So I think for a lot of people, you get on your device or your computer or whatever it may be, you're scrolling the internet, you're streaming something, whatever, and most people I think probably don't think that there's much of a carbon footprint. Certainly don't think about it, but there is, right? And how do we understand that? Like, what's the actual carbon footprint of digital ads? Can we put numbers on how much that advertising kind of contributes to greenhouse gas emissions and a flavor of that? Yeah, absolutely. But first, before even jumping into digital advertising, I think, talking about the carbon footprint of internet is interesting,
Okay.
Because, when you're driving your car, let's say it's a gasoline car, that you're putting fuel in it, and so it's generating carbon emissions. When you think about the agriculture industry, about the pollution that comes with it, or at least you're aware that some of it comes from it. But when we think about internet, we think about the electricity that is required to power the device, but we don't think about everything else that is happening. But the truth is, internet is about 4% of global emissions. That's the same than civil aviation, if you think about that.
Wow.
And the reason why, internet is generating emissions is because it's powered by data. And when we think about data, well, we need servers, we need data centers for that, for you, me, everybody to be able to access content online. I'll give you a few numbers of things, that are happening in 1 minute online. Every single minute on the internet, it's 65,000 pictures that are being shared on Instagram, for example. It's 148,000 on average. Once again, Slack messages that are being sent. It's 695,000 videos that are being watched on TikTok. All of that content, in order for you to access it, requires energy. And one good example that I like is, when you're streaming a video like this interview, for example, online, streaming a 10-minute video on your mobile requires more energy than the battery consumption of your mobile. It's 1,500 times higher.
Really?
Energy consumption, the fact of watching video content, than just the battery usage that you have during those 10 minutes. So we don't think about that. And when it comes to digital advertising, well, about 25 to 30% of the internet carbon footprint comes from digital advertising. And so you might say, okay, let's get rid of advertising. But the thing is, it's not that easy. Advertising is also what powers the internet. Without advertising, you would not be able to access free and quality content online. So we need advertising. However, one single ad impression, so when you see a banner on top of a website on the right side of the screen, one banner is about 1 gram of carbon emissions. There are billions of banner ads displayed every day online. So you can picture a bit the carbon footprint of that. A campaign, standard campaigns deliver a few million impressions on average, and 1 million ad impressions. So 1 million times the ad is being displayed online. It's the same energy that is required to charge 121,000 smartphones.
Wow.
So it is huge, and so there is a problem. I believe we can be part of the solution as well.
So I've heard people say, I'm sure you probably have too, the digital ads, even the streaming itself, and just, internet usage, how much of a difference can it really make in terms of emissions? And what you're saying is it's a lot. It's actually a fairly significant portion of the overall emissions that are being put out across all industry, all energy use, essentially, right?
Yeah, exactly. And if every industry start to look at their neighbors and saying, okay, I'm only 4% of the global emissions, so better focus on, the automotive or the road transportation industry, which is 11% of global emissions, or agriculture, and which is about 18%, I think, of global emissions. But if we think like that, nobody does anything. So the positive impact of internet and advertising, if we focus on that, is yes, you do have the internet and digital advertising emissions, but tackling that issue can have a very positive impact in other industries as well. If brands start to lower the emissions of their digital campaigns, that could have a ripple effect, a positive ripple effect on other industries as well. So that's why I think, each industry should start looking at their own industry before trying to finger point at others that are generating more emissions than their own.
Yeah. So if I'm correct, I think you and your company were one of the first ad tech companies to roll out some of these green media products, and specifically with you guys, I think something called green PMPs. For the layman, what does that actually mean? And was this a hard sell? Is it tough to get into these brands and advertisers and say, hey, you really should look at this kind of product? Did it take a lot of convincing?
Well, let me explain what it is, and I will tell you the story around that. So what happened is like maybe a bit more than 3 years ago, us as a company, we're one of the largest global independent ad platform, and so we're basically connecting thousands of brands with millions of consumers, and so we're an intermediate between brands and publishers, which means like website owners and apps as well. And so we became aware of the carbon footprint of internet and then the carbon footprint of digital advertising. And it started with an idea, as always, what if we could build a media product for advertisers that would allow them to reduce the carbon footprint of their campaigns while increasing or at least maintaining the same level of performance. And so in order to do that, we needed like some measurement data about carbon emissions, and we partnered with a company called Scope3. Scope3 is a measurement, our measurement partners when it comes to measuring carbon emissions on digital advertising. And us, what we did is based on that data, measurement data, we built a product called Green PMPs that allows to better package the inventory, the ad inventory for advertisers, what we call better curate the inventory in order to remove high emission websites, remove what we call multi-ops, so intermediates that are not always necessary between the advertiser and the publishers, eliminate websites that are solely built for advertising, with the goal of generating advertising revenue, but that are not really bringing any value for the users or the brand. And so Green PMPs, it's a way to reduce the carbon footprint of campaigns by better curating the inventory, basically, if I simplify the process.
So you guys have figured out a way to sort of, get the piece of content, the digital ad, from start to finish, just in a more efficient way. It sounds like you've kind of cut out some of the perhaps unneeded or wasteful steps along the way. And then what's interesting too, what you're saying is it sounds like you've also kind of figured out a way to make sure those ads are placed in places that are more sustainable websites, which is interesting. And I wonder, could change the dynamics a little bit of how people even think about building websites, right? If there's not a penalty per se, but if they're not as likely to get served an ad, maybe they'd be more conscious of their impact.
It's a way to put some healthy pressure on websites for them to change the way they can build their page or avoid like some bad practices in our space, having constant auto refresh of ads. Like if an ad is auto refreshing automatically every 10 seconds, well, it's not a good practice. Right. If a website is displaying an ad in the non-viewable portion of the screen, so let's say at the bottom of the page, if you're simply and you haven't scrolled down, well, you know what? The website could load the ad once the ad is in the viewable portion of the screen. Therefore, you're not generating useless emissions. So different things. But there is everything that the website can do, but there is everything that a company like ours can do as well. So it's not only putting pressure on the users. On our end, there are many things that us as an ad exchange, what we are, we have to take different steps to create like a cleaner supply path once again between the brands and the publishers. And so we started with that. And to come back on your question, was it an immediate success? The answer is no, in fact. And I was maybe over optimistic when we launched this product. I was like, whoa. We're launching something that allows brands and advertisers to reduce emissions by maybe 25-30% on average, while at least maintaining the same level of performance, if not increase the performance. So I thought like every brand would jump on this opportunity. And in fact, wasn't the case at the beginning. The reason for that is mostly for a lack of education about the carbon footprint of digital advertising. So that's where we started to organizing workshops with our agency partners, some brands as well, publishing content. We created a carbon estimator, which is can be accessed by everyone online to evaluate the potential carbon footprint of a campaign. And we ended up organizing the Green Media Summit as well in order to bring people together and talk about it.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that, actually, the summit. What's the Green Media Summit in New York, I believe? What's kind of the big idea behind the summit, and what is it? It's probably evolved over time, but what is it you guys are trying to accomplish by bringing all these companies, big and small, together around these topics?
Yeah, so really it started as an event built to inform our industry about and educate the industry about the carbon footprint of advertising. And so we decided to organize a one-day event, so the Green Media Summit, bringing together industry experts, decision makers as well, from brands, agencies, publishers, but climate experts as well, and have that conference focused on those different types of topics. Why is internet generating emissions? Why is digital advertising and advertising in general generating emissions? Give some examples of companies that are doing the right things as well. Showcase some potential innovation in the space that are interesting. So we did not make the event around like a Sharethrough and our company. It was really an event built for education. And then the first year was a real success. We organized it in New York in a smaller room than where we are right now. Right now we are at the Javits Center, and but the response was fantastic. We had people standing in the room because we did not plan for enough seats.
That's great.
And staying during the entire day, and the content was great. And so we organized a second edition and then a third edition, which now is still about media and sustainability, but also bring additional topics in the mix. Talking about AI a bit, because we know that AI can have a strong carbon footprint as well, but maybe can help as well reducing the emissions if we use it the right way. Bringing topics such as ESG in general, not only sustainability, because when you talk with companies, most of the time sustainability is a component of ESG in general, and so that's why we're talking about those type of topics as well, and not only talking about media, because one day full of media conversations you might be bored at some point. So that's why bringing climate experts. This year we had Ed Begley Jr. on stage explaining us the journey as an actor, but also an environmentalist. So different types of content to make this event relevant. And it's a big success. It's more than 400 people together. Once again, from brands, agencies, publishers, ad tech companies as well. And strong decision makers. With now the focus is not only education, it's also action. What do we do as an industry?
It sounds like the industry is really kind of taking this to heart and taking kind of the energy consumption and that path a lot more seriously. Was there anything that you saw that kind of particularly resonated with people? During the Green Media Summit, we released a study that we've done with IPG and Magna, and this study is mentioning that 89% of consumers really believe that brands should take actions to fight climate change. And 65% of consumers believe that brands can have a better impact than governments themselves at building or shaping a better future from the climate standpoint. Okay. And so with that in mind, of course, for brands, it starts with their own products, with their own services, what they can do to lower emissions, reduce their impact. But very soon started those conversations around like marketing activities as well. And so interest started to spark. In addition to that, you got some pressure from regulatory pressure and government pressures as well, that have an impact on what brands are doing. Most of the time it comes from the advertisers, in the ad industry. They're the one having like
the media budget to spend. So they do have power to influence an industry. And so that's why now we're seeing more and more impact with all that.
What does that kind of, planet-friendly advertising look like down the road, do you think?
Yeah. Well, for me and the Green Media Summit, I would say it's all about maximizing impact. And if we're successful at doing it with not only us for sure, but the entire industry, that would mean that, looking ahead 5 years from now, we should have a way cleaner advertising ecosystem, way more transparent as well, because we're in an industry that isn't always fully transparent, meaning between the dollar spent by the brand and the portion of it that is received by the website owner, it's not always easy to see exactly who's taking what in the middle. And that also leads to, that's because there are too many intermediates. If you're able to be more transparent, able to remove the unnecessary intermediates, you will decrease the carbon footprint as well. So it goes together in a way. So having a cleaner supply path, what we call SPO, supply path optimization in our field, more transparency will be important. And also, I think 5 years from now, most or all maybe advertising platforms will provide brands with the carbon footprint of their campaigns. That should become a standard. So when you're delivering a campaign, yes, you should see the number of impressions delivered, the clicks, the conversion, and guess what? Well, the carbon footprint of your campaigns. Yeah. And maybe solutions and things like that to further reduce those emissions. I think we're getting there. It will take a few years again, but really the industry is moving in that direction.
Well, Ben, it's been a huge pleasure talking with you today about a really important and I think really fascinating subject. So thanks for spending 22 minutes with us.
Well, thank you very much for your time. It was a pleasure as well. Thank you.